Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard Hustle Podcast with our next guest that spent years running multi-million-dollar retail operations. Then, when his third child was diagnosed with autism, that moment really knocked him off course and ultimately gave him what he couldn't ignore. So, Mike, talk about it. Where are you at today, man, that you couldn't ignore?
Well, thank you for that introduction. So, yeah, with our third child, everything changed. When he was born, he seemed to develop very naturally, like our first two children. He got to when he was at age 2, he he had half a dozen words and language, and then all of a sudden, as the weeks ensued, he started losing his language. He started pacing back and forth a little bit more, and then we also noticed too that loud noises and sometimes any direction we'd give him, it was almost like he couldn't hear it, and so he was almost like in another world into himself. At first, we thought he had lost his hearing, and then we got him reviewed by a neurologist, and that's when he was diagnosed with autism. So here I am going along in my career, and then you get this, and at the time it was like a punch in the gut, and then I had even before I was married, I had always volunteered with Special Olympics, and so I kind of felt like, okay, I got this. We're ready for this. We're going on a journey, and we'll figure this thing out. And and now he's grown up as an adult, and I just don't know life without him.
Yeah. I love this. I love the story, man. And you talked about walking away from, we talked about earlier at the beginning, walking away from something that was your career. I mean, you're president of Michaels and CEO of Kirkland. What in the world prepared you or failed to prepare you for what you would face in the healthcare industry?
I don't know if you could be prepared for the healthcare industry. I think, I was president of Michaels, where I was overseeing the subsidiary businesses. I eventually then moved to a company called Kirkland's, where we had 400 stores, and I became CEO of Kirkland's. And I think all of the combination of all these experiences, and prior to that, I had an eclectic career. I've been very blessed. I was in technology and I was in manufacturing, and I think it just gave you kind of tools and ways to help lead a team of people, and I think that's what kind of helped build a bridge for me in the healthcare. And then you surround yourself with really great people and knowledgeable people, and I think that's been the real secret here at JoyBridge Kids.
Yeah. I want to talk about how sometimes we plant seeds in our own lives and don't realize it. How you were involved in Special Olympics, and then life happened, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a little prepared for this. Like I've been in this field."
Yeah.
Do you think that was kind of that seed that was planted for your son?
I think there was. I do. I think there's been a path that I think has been created. So it was seemingly out of the blue. I volunteered for Special Olympics. It was a friend of mine who, at the time I was playing volleyball, and he was the president of the Volleyball Association. He said, "Hey Mike, can you run volleyball for the state games out of Atlanta?" And I just, man, when I did it the first day, I just fell in love, and I just loved all these kids, and they just were so happy to be there, and so I think that paved the path, and I think the path to JoyBridge Kids, I think there were several events that played into it. So I was. I couldn't tell you exactly the moment, but I was with Michaels. We had a very good year. We were a very profitable arm of Michaels, and I remember we had amassed in the neighborhood, hundreds of millions of dollars of gross margin. And I was sitting in the boardroom, and we were doing our budget for the following year, and I was in the boardroom for this private equity company where they had a private chef and a beautiful they had a beautiful boardroom, and it kind of hit me that all this money is going to a lot of very wealthy investors is really what's happening. And I said,
Yeah.
how do we? What was running through my mind was like, how do I divert the efforts to those who really need it? These families with kids with autism, or the Special Olympics organization. And I remember going home. I came back. I talked to my wife, and I said, "What am I doing with my life?" And she said, "Well, I don't know, but maybe you can reset and start by unloading the dishwasher, and then you'll figure it out from there." And that's when I realized I needed to get more involved, and that led me to working with a nonprofit, and I think when JoyBridge Kids came around, I just jumped on it.
And one thing you mentioned to me was that the original founder was great at starting things, but not running them. And you've seen the vision, right? You have the experience of what it
Right.
looked like to run huge organizations, multi-million dollar organizations.
Yeah.
What did you bring to scale it? What do you think was what you brought to the table?
Yeah, so the original founder, his name was Rogers Clayton, marvelous man, and we met by chance, or perhaps not, and it was in 2021, and I went and toured the clinic that he had founded, he had started, and was just getting off the ground. It was there was maybe a quarter half full of kids, but I love the DNA of what he was building. And
Hmm.
he asked me what runs through your mind when you see this clinic, and I said happiness, and I said I saw 12 little boys like my son in there, and what he said to me, he says, I'm really good at starting things, and he goes, but I need someone to help me operate this and to scale it. As good fortune would have it, the following year in April 2022, he sold the business to a group called Frontline Healthcare Partners, and that's when they asked me to come on board as the CEO to help finish building out the model and then to scale it. And it's been a great and crazy ride, since then.
Massive growth, man. Tell us about the growth. What happened in just 3 years?
So here we are now, a little over 3 years later, and we were one clinic in a little town called Mount Juliet, Tennessee. We're now 14 clinics in 3 states, and I am, Ephraim. I'm just so proud of this team. We've got just an incredible team that has really helped figure all of this out, and and that's what you need in doing this, and you have to have a team of people who are really giving of themselves to make this happen. And we figured it out, along the way. I think some of my retail background helped, but I think it was really just a true collaboration that made it work. And one of the things too that I wanted to make sure, there was a couple key principles. One was I wanted to make sure that we weren't just building ABA clinics. I wanted it to be the best in class was the mindset that we had going in. And so a couple things. One was we made sure it was multidisciplinary, and what that means is you have ABA therapy is the core therapy for kids with autism, but we also offer speech therapy, occupational therapy as well. And so we offer all those therapies under one roof, because I know firsthand with our child that we would drive him from one place to another place to another place, and none of it's connected. And the truth is, it was my wife who was really the Uber doing all of that, and she just she gave her entire life to spending time to make sure he was getting all the right therapy. Now we do it all under one roof, and so and I wanted to make sure that we offered the highest clinical quality, but to get to that level of clinical quality, we said the number one strategy was that we would offer the highest quality care first and foremost to the clinicians. Because if we can provide the right environment, the right tools, some sense of joy in what they do in a really stupid hard job, then that would transcend to the kids and to the families. And that's what we have strived to do. And I just look to get a little bit better every week, a little bit better, a little bit better. And I think, we're pretty good right now. And I think, the day will come, we'll be, truly great at this.
I mean, I can imagine you guys are great. I love how you kind of put the play on words that joy, right? Bring them joy, JoyBridge. Like I don't know if you meant to do that, man, but I see there's joy all over the place.
Yeah.
Clinicians have a tough job,
Oh,
right? Kicked, hit, all these different things
all of it.
happen, but they still show up excited to come back to work. Why? Why do you think?
Because they're so selfless. They get kicked, hit, bit, and I remember one day I was sitting in the lobby with one of our registered behavioral technicians, and this was after dismissal. They had all the kids had gone home with their parents, and she was just sitting in the lobby. We were all just sitting next to her, and I said, "How was your day?" And she goes, "Mike," she goes, I'm not gonna lie. She goes, "It was a tough day, man." She goes, I got hit over here. I got bit, but it was yes, there was the physical part of it, but I think it was the emotional part that was so hard. She just and the and you just realize just how hard this is, and then you come back in, and then she comes back in the next day, and her heart's so filled with joy. She's got a big smile on her face, and she's ready to go at it again, and she's not giving up, and that's what these folks do. They're amazing. They have great energy, and they're all in terms of just trying to do what they can to develop, these children. And my job is to do everything I can for them to do that.
I love that. I love that. So many parents just don't know what resources are really available, right, Mike? And you're really
Yeah,
helping move that needle. How do you pull the back? How you pull the curtain back so these
yeah,
hidden paths become more visible?
yeah. It's hard because so once you learn and or figure out, that your child, needs help or has been diagnosed with autism, um, they're right now it's for many it's like almost in the right away it's almost like sheer panic, and so we just try to slow it down with them, and if they call us, we're gonna walk them through step by step by step on what they need to do, and just because there's a lot of information out there's a lot of conflicting information, and so all we can do is say, okay, let's put one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. We got you, and we'll handhold them and walk them through the process, until which time they've got the insurance coverage. They're ready to their child is assessed, and they're ready to go, and we can bring them into the clinic. And if it's not us, somewhere, so we make sure that we provide that resource for the parents.
I love that. You guys do a lot of different things. One of the things that you also mentioned is that in schools, kids are lumped into large groups with that minimal individual attention. But JoyBridge, pushes back against that default. What are you guys doing?
So schools, so my son went through the school system. The school systems are, they can be complicated to navigate as well. And so the first thing to understand with the schools is that they have to, they have to medically support the needs of the children that they have, and so the key thing there is knowing what your rights are, knowing how to ask for those services. And of course, like anything, they've got limits to and budgets in terms of what they can afford to do. So I know for us, when we did it, you go through what's called an IEP process, where you formally request the additional services that your child is entitled to. And so we always kind of came in with the attitude that, hey, we're going to be rational, reasonable, we're going to work with the schools, and we're going to figure out what is in the best interest of Killian and within reach of what they can provide. And once you understand that, I think everything else can go downhill. But for some of these children, they're not ready for school. They can't. So I'll give you an example. There's someone I knew, and she had a little girl, and she was in another clinic, and she said her girl's just struggling. So I didn't want to oversell or push. I said, why don't you just check into JoyBridge Kids? And that's all I said. And then sure enough, she did. And we brought her little girl in. Her girl is about 3 years old now. And we take a lot of data. Because if you take data, that kind of informs you what's working, what's not, and what next steps to take. And she had a lot of acute behaviors. And so we were clocking over 80 behaviors a day. And she would get very, very frustrated and disrobe herself. And once we were able to unlock communication skills, then those frustrations dissipate a lot. And now the ABA therapy starts to take hold. And she was in another clinic, and I happened to visit the clinic literally like 3 months later. And it was at drop-off time, and she was actually in the lobby area, and she was kind of looking through the window. She just looked like a calm, happy, normal pre-K little girl, and I almost couldn't believe my eyes. But our clinicians are so good, and the RBT, the registered behavioral technician, kind of walked her out to the car to her mom, and that was the day her mom heard her voice for the very first time.
Wow.
Where she said, hi, mommy, and of course, a lot of tears. And the RBT comes back in. She's bawling, and I saw the girl about 8 months later, and now she has expansive language, and she's playing with the other kids, and she's just a smart little girl. And within a year and a half, we're matriculating her into school, and now she's ready.
I love that.
And so that's what these clinics can do, is get them ready. To participate in school, and that's our job. We're trying to get them to move to that next level where they can, be with other typical children.
It's cool. It's cool to, our cups are filled by those moments, right? It's not about the paychecks.
Yeah.
But when you get to see that, you're like, that's what it's for. I was actually at working at the, I think I told you, I run the nonprofit for the high school that I graduated from. And I just had the principal come to me during beginning of the school year. And I guess they were they needed funds to help. I'm not really sure what they call the additional teacher that supports these kids. But he wanted to keep the same exact one with them for the whole school year, because they had one in ninth grade, and I guess every year it changes unless you really keep that same one. Mm-hmm. How important is that, to have the repetition, that same person that someone feels very comfortable with? Because it seems like the JoyBridge makes sure of that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. It's a big deal. That consistency is a really big deal. It's for a couple of reasons. Is for that child to get comfortable with that person is what really enables them to progress. But also, what we do too is we build a treatment plan for that child, and so that registered behavioral technician, that RBT, knows how to run that treatment plan. And so knowing the play what really is really helps. And so this is a very high burnout field, and so for us, we do everything to make sure we have a great foundational culture, and we want to retain all of our folks who are just so marvelous, and if you can retain them, then that provides that consistency that you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought it was when he told me that. I'm like, it makes sense. Why would you every year have somebody different? Like, it's almost like the child starting all over again.
It is
every single year.
I get it. Yeah.
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 So that's cool, man. You build a team, man, of leaders who really carry that same heart. My question to you is, how do you vet? How do you develop and trust them to do this kind of work? Like, this is completely different than hiring someone at a Kirkland or at a Michael's, right?
It
Like,
is.
there's lives on the line here.
There is. We develop our leaders like crazy. And what I mean by that is, so we've got leaders who are coming in, and I'll refer to the clinical director. So our clinical director is the one who oversees that clinic, right?
Okay.
And so they've gone to school, and they have studied for thousands of hours on business analysis. I mean, I'm sorry, on therapeutic analysis, and what they have not been taught is kind of the business side of all of this, and the HR side of it, because they just have not had that experience of, now they're thrust into a leadership role where now they're dealing with all different kinds of situations that they're having to deal with. And so we really invest heavily and train with them. We provide a great clinic support team. We refuse to call ourselves corporate, and we're there for them. We build their trust so that they can come to us with all the questions that they have, all the way down to, we even teach them how to understand what a P&L and read a P&L is, so that they're understanding the performance of the clinic that they're doing, so they can make good business decisions. And they're smart, they're engaging, and they're data driven, and they just want to excel in what they do. And I'm just blown away by these folks, because they have really matured into be really fabulous leaders in their own right. And we just continue to pour into it. The neat thing is, once you get to a critical mass, and so now we're 14 clinics, and we just actually brought all our clinical directors for a 2-day offsite meeting. Here's the cool part is, now you've got good things happening in all these clinics. Now they can share with each other best practices, and then those best practices now become 14 best practices, and it becomes across the enterprise. And now you start to build on that. And so I'm just fortunate to work with really, really wonderful people, and they're all in.
What's more challenging, running an organization like this or running a Michael's or Kirkland?
They're both very challenging. I think this one, I would have to say this is actually harder. Here's why, a couple reasons. So first of all, this was really almost a startup, right? And so we were one clinic and going to 2 clinics, 3 clinics, 4 clinics, 5 clinics. And so you can only afford so many resources. Like when we started, it was just a few of us. It was like myself, and there was an HR coordinator and a person that oversaw the insurance side of it. And as you see all the things that you would like to do, and you see all the gaps that need to be filled. And so while you're growing and building, you just feel like you're getting beaten up along the way, because you need to, you can't fill those gaps all right away. As you get a little bit bigger, you get a few more resources, and you start to fill more of the gaps, and things get a little bit easier along the way. I think you talk to anyone in any in any world, doing a startup business is really hard, but it's particularly hard in our area. And what makes ABA so incredibly difficult is this one-on-one relationship. So if you have a child with autism and they walk through the door, there's a registered behavioral technician that's assigned to that person. It's not daycare. It's one-on-one, and we are medically treating that child from the time they walk in the door to the time they leave. So you have this one-on-one relationship. And so you have a clinic that might have 28 learners or kids in it. On any given day, you're going to have some kids call out because they're on vacation or they're sick, and then you also have staff that may be taking well-deserved time off, and so every single day it's like a chessboard building that schedule. Yeah. And this is why a lot of clinics do not do multidisciplinary or don't do it well, is because it's like a three-dimensional chessboard, because then you've got speech therapy and occupational therapy for these kids as well. And so putting that together, putting Humpty Dumpty together every single morning is quite a challenge. And then you've got everyone confined inside a really an emotionally packed clinic.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure you guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. And Mike, you're so busy because you don't just lead JoyBridge. You're also leading, if I'm not mistaken, the nonprofit BrightStone.
Yep.
How does that role inform how you run the for-profit side of JoyBridge?
Yeah. So I was I was transitioning from Michael's to my role in Kirkland's that I mentioned earlier, and so it was actually at the point when I was interviewing with Kirkland's, and so when I flew in, I was looking around in the Nashville area, but I had read about this organization called BrightStone, and they are a day program for adults with special needs. And I was really captivated by them. So I called up the founder and said, just love to come, stop on by and see what you're all about. And so I met with her, and they had a development director. And they had just bought 140 acres, and they were trying to figure out how do they build that operation onto this new property. And I remember the development director just looked me straight in the eye, and he said, "You will, because I told him, I said, they had told me there's 10 people interviewing for the Michael's job, so I said, there's a 10% chance I'll probably be here, and but if there's anything I can, anything I can do to help, let me know." And I remember him looking me straight in the eye, and he said, "You will get that job at Kirkland's because God will it." And he said, you're going to help us figure out how to build this operation onto this land. And so I did get the job. I came onto the board of BrightStone, and we went to work and raised the money, and we built a day program that will ultimately hold 80 adults in this day program. It's a state-of-the-art day program, probably among the best in the entire United States. And then what's even cooler is we're now starting to build a residential program from scratch, and where adults can have a place to go, because the biggest stress for these parents with who have adults with special needs is, where do they go when they pass away? What happens? And there's not a lot that's out there. So we had to get a bill passed, which we did in legislature to allow us to do this. And now we're off to the races, and we're now building our third and fourth home now. So I do that in my nights, weekends, spare time. It is the, like JoyBridge kids, it's just a joy.
Where do you learn this work ethic, man? Because that's truly what it is work ethic. right? To be able to do the JoyBridge, the nonprofit, you still have your own child that you're taking care of. You still have to be a husband. You still have to
Yeah.
be, all these different things as well. Like, where does that all stem from, man?
You know, Efran, I just love it. So it's not work for me. You know, I get
Got
up in
it.
the
Yeah.
morning every day, and I bet you it's the same thing on where you volunteer for this high school. I get up in the morning and I get to work with this magnificent team. Love what I do. I get to help all these kids, and so I can't wait to get in and get going. Um, the organization at BrightStone is also amazing, and they're just at this point, they're they don't really need as much from me. They've got it, and so whatever little I can give them and whatever small part I can play, I'm happy to do so. And so I feel like I'm able to fulfill what I'm supposed to be doing.
Got it. Got it. And let's talk to those parents really quick as we start to wrap this up. What do you say to those parents hearing autism for the first time? Like, what's your message of hope, of clarity, of action? Not only because you're involved in an organization, but you've experienced this.
Yeah, what I would tell a parent is it's going to be okay. And there's you know, um, and it's going to be a journey, and but the 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 science associated with autism therapy has just advanced so much, and we can help them navigate their way. And these, I can tell you, my son just lives a very happy life, and that will be the same for their son or daughter as well. And there is a path out there, for them, and we'll take advantage of the resources that are there and just love them and just embrace that journey, and it'll be okay.
And what's your vision for autism care in the next 10 years if models like yours are replicated widely? Because clearly you guys are doing it right. You guys are making sure that this stands for a lifetime.
Yeah. What we're trying to do with what we're trying to build at JoyBridge Kids is we're trying to build something that is going to be sustainable long beyond, I'm here, and my dream is, on the day that, I'm in a plywood box and they're throwing dirt on it, that, there's going to be, JoyBridge Kids and clinics like us, because we want to help all the other clinics that are out there. But my hope is that we have the resources in place for all these parents, to support them, and also to support them holistically. In other words, ABA therapy is just one piece of what that child needs, and what we're trying to do is provide the whole for them, and that's why we're building it the way that we are. And and I think the the autism community is kind of going through a migration right now, and I think there's some really good players out there, and I think there's a lot of players out there that are really struggling right now. But right now, if we can be that beacon, where we can help kind of lead the way, and that would be my hope. And we can also we can do this in a way where we can we can continue to attract all this great talent to help these kids. And Ephraim, I've got, I had this, I was at a clinic a week ago, and once you start getting to a point where you're getting multiple clinics, you have this ability where you can develop people, and they can, and so we had a young lady, and I was walking through the clinic, and she was like, Mike, I need to talk to you. And so and she goes, what? And she's I'll be done in like an hour. I said, well, why don't I just sit down with you while you're working with your child? And so, well, she got promoted to lead RBT, and she was just so excited about that and the responsibility that came with it. And she's just awesome. And she goes, Mike, I'm leading my best life right now.
Wow.
So if we can provide that, then that is what's going to enable us to do what we want to do.
100%. For listeners that want to support JoyBridge, whether it's financially, advocacy, volunteering, what is the website? Are you guys on social? What's their first step?
Yeah, just you can always contact us. I would probably go to our website and look up JoyBridge Kids. You'll find our website, and if you're looking for a career at JoyBridge Kids, we're or you have a son or daughter that needs help, we're here for you. And then BrightStone is based out of Franklin, Tennessee. It's a nonprofit, and they would welcome any support you could give, including charitable donations or any support that you is in your heart. They really could use it.
All right, Mike, I'm putting you in the hot seat. Last question, the blind question.
All right.
Get you really thinking here. You live both sides, man, the corporate and the mission-driven care, obviously. What's one self-limiting belief from your retail days that you had to unlearn, and how did it unlock deeper impact in autism care? The one thing I had to unlearn, See, I know I was going to get you thinking.
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me take it. I'm going to take a shot at it. I think what can happen in corporate America, in retail companies, and really a lot of companies, is you become very performance driven, and you can lose sight of what is really important, and that's really the people part of it. Mm-hmm. And so now, I take more of a long-term view in our people, and it's genuine. It's trying to be genuinely building trust with your team, and so that you can talk about anything, and where you're emotionally, intellectually tied together. And that is what's ultimately going to create is going to enable you to win in whatever mission that you're trying to accomplish. And I think that was the thing I had to unlearn. And fortunately, I have some wonderful people around me who probably unknowingly kind of taught me that.
Love it. Love it. Well, listen, Mike, it has been a pleasure to really learn more about you and your career and where you started and where you're still going, right? You've still got so many more years to go.
Oh, yeah.
The transition. So many people think it's too late, right? It is never too late. You follow purpose, follow passion, and the money will follow in that sense. Do things that make you feel happy so it doesn't ever feel like work. Mike talks about it. He said it doesn't feel like work. I just love what I do every single day. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being a man and a leader and caring for others and giving back into this space as well. Mm-hmm. So I hope to do this again as you continue to scale. And next time we're talking about 30, clinics and maybe we're throughout all 50 states. Who really knows? But if you guys want to know more, it is going to be the website. I pulled it up is joybridgekids.com. So check that out. Check them out on social. Mike, it has been a pleasure. My name's Ephraim. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.